Hi everyone, welcome to Sustainable Sailing. I'm afraid it's just me today. Our plans have had to change. What I'm going to do today then is some progress on prototyping the lifting mechanism for our side solar panel. We arrived at the boat last night, just before midnight on Thursday, and then throughout the night Jane has caught a sickness bug from her preschool. So she's out of it today, and the jobs we were planning to do, we're not going to do. The hope was we would be working on the mizzen mast preparation. That will have to wait for another visit. We've got 30 knots of wind forecast in the gusts all day for Beaumaris Beach, and here at the boatyard we'll always low solidly whatever the gust speed is. It's very noisy and a bit harder to move around and do jobs. Let's start with where we're at with our guardrails. So we've got the guardrail fitted. This is the starboard side. This one just needs the glass fibre wrap around the joints to finally toughen it up from abrasion, make sure that those joints don't just rely on the thickened epoxy glue. We've got one line for the middle guard line. We haven't fitted the lower one, and the reason is that that's going to be where the lifting supports for the solar panels will use that, and we're going to have to slide some things along the line before we splice one end, so we haven't got around to that yet. If you remember, we made these sexy curved supports that bolt to the bottom of the solar panel, so I'm just going to put this in place so we can talk about how it moves and prototype how that's going to allow the solar panel to be tilted. What we have done is all our ends of the guardrail solar supports, the aft ends are all in cups and can lift out. Got lashings on them all, so there's no way that can pop out, and I'll just take that lashing off now. I wonder, there's awful shadows in that picture, sorry about that. I don't think you really need to watch me struggling to undo lots of half hitches and a lashing. I'll come back to that. Okay, the lashing is off, and this is still pretty firmly held in. Popping that out isn't the easiest thing. It's quite nice. It's held tightly at that end so it doesn't just fall out. What I've got then is the arm that will be attached to the solar panel. Each panel will have 3 of these arms bolted to the solar panel. That's the horizontal up position, and they need to be able to go down to there and up. We'd like them to go well past horizontal to angle to catch the sun, and also to keep them out of the water when the boat's heeling. The question is, how do we support this in a way that gives us infinite adjustment? We don't like the way that we've seen so many do it with just a fixed brace going diagonally from there to somewhere down here, just to hold it in a fixed place. We do want these to be simply adjustable to maximize the solar power that we get. I'm just going to temporarily put a rail in so we can see how that fits. Okay, what I've got here is the half prepared Dyneema lifeline for the lower aft section. We've got an eye splice which is for the aft end, just like that one there, that will be used to tension it, and the other end is still touched. What we're planning to do is have these narrow carbon fibre tubes which will have the line, the 6mm, or is it 5mm, whatever it is, guardrail running through this carbon fibre tube. So this carbon fibre tube is overlong at the moment. It will just be the same length as the solar panel, 150, and also fit just between the two uprights, and that's basically to act as a slider. Now I've just clamped it in place for the moment, roughly where it'll be. We are setting up our lines so that there's essentially 25 centimetre, 250mm height from the bulwark to the lower, 25 centimetres to the middle, and 25 centimetres to the rail. They're not in quite the right place at the moment, but that's fine. Let me get my other bits and pieces. Okay, got distracted by a chat with Nick from Nicandi. That's their boat over just the other side of the slipway, and they've got a YouTube channel which we'll link in our description. They're also doing an electric motor conversion. To get this to move, what we're actually going to do is have a support that will slide along this carbon fibre tube, and when this is in its down position, it'll be to the middle of the tube, and as you slide that along the tube, that will go up. That's the theory. I've got these stainless hinges. That hinge is going to bolt to that arm loosely so it can swivel. Combination of being able to twist and the hinge, that will be able to follow the angle as this goes up. And to get the movement at this end, I'm basically going to create a slidey block with another one of the hinges attached to it. A slidey block can slide along the carbon fibre tube, and it gets its articulation by being able to rotate and the hinge move. I'm going to do a little mock-up initially with some bits of batten just to check it works, but the goal is to obviously make it pretty nice and sexy by the time it finishes. And then what we're hoping is that we can just have a little light line that will pull this along here, or at least lock it in position. It might be that because of the angles not being, particularly when this is flat, that you need to lift the panel manually and then pull the line to slide this to the right place to lock it in position. We've not seen anybody do anything quite like this before. It's very much an experiment to see what's possible. I'm gonna get going with that mocking up now. First thing I want to do is drill a hole through this temporary little block so I can fit it onto the carbon fibre tube. That carbon fibre tube is an outside diameter of a smidge 0.03 under 14mm. So I'm figuring, at least to start with, if I do a 15mm hole, and then I'm just very temporarily use screws to hold the hinge to the block, and then we can actually see how it might work. Okay, back in a second, because you know how to drill a hole. I don't need to show you drilling a 15mm hole. Okay, not quite what I intended. My first block of wood was just too small, and I only had a 16mm drill bit handy. That meant it cracked and fell apart. So a slightly bigger block here. This is a temporary prototype. We're not going to be using a little block of softwood like this to make this, but I just wanted something that will slide along the carbon fibre tube through that hole there, and that I could temporarily attach the hinge to. I'm going to put that, unclamp my carbon tube and put this on it now. Well, it's not exactly low friction, but that does slide along there, and that hinges. So between it rotating and the hinge, we can get a full range of movement. Now to bolt another hinge to this nice and loosely. Take that off and find an appropriate bolt. Meanwhile, we are told that there are going to be 40 fishing boats arriving to that part of the boatyard for a competition. Grabbing one aluminium one out at the moment. It probably is a bit slow, that one. It's got about 8 inches of weed hanging off the bottom. Maybe they're going to scrub it. At this point, my DJI mic stopped working, so I've no idea what I was saying, but here I was looking through a stash of bolts, nuts, all the things that come from Accu, plus a few other random bits of metal, brilliantly sorted, very well organised, and just rummaging through to find suitable bolts, nuts, washers, etc. for this job. If anybody gets bored and wants to come and sort out our bolts for us, you would be very, very welcome. Still no microphone working. Here's the support arm with the hinge bolted onto it. It's a little bit slack as you see it at the moment, so that's just moving too easily, creates a bit of wobble, but you can see the articulation there, and I've just got to find the right length of batten to go between them. The critical thing being that the length to the middle mustn't be too long, because otherwise the left and right sides, forward and aft sides, will clash. There we are, there's a really beautiful piece of scrap batten. Alrighty, I have my very first prototype on. That can slide along. Obviously at the moment this can flap a lot, but once it's bolted to the solar panel, that will be held nicely at rectangles. And what we can see is that as I slide this along the rail, that drops down until it's vertical. This length here could do with being longer in some way, because when this comes all the way up like that, oops, like that, at the moment this is only just getting to the horizontal. I'm thinking I can adjust the way that it fastens onto this rail to essentially give me another few centimeters of length by kind of reversing the way the hinge goes. I could potentially move that hinge to the other side of this. It's on the outside. That would gain me a little bit of extra length. But the main thing I can do is move the pivot point further in on here. That length will jack that up a bit. But clearly, as it is just at this minute, I'm not going to get that going up very high. This rail could also be moved a lot higher than I've got it at the moment. But the basic idea is there. We can have a little line on here that can pull that, pleat it at any position. So if you want to have it sloping like that because the sun's coming from the starboard side, you can fasten it at any point. And once we've got, as I say, once we've got the solar panel, this bolted to the solar panel, that's going to be nice and held rigidly at right angles to this rail. When that's a much tighter fit onto here, and this is made out of, I don't know, might use FR4, might use acetal, something like that, then that's going to both slide more easily and not twist as this temporary thing is doing. I'm just wondering now whether to knock up a second one of these and actually try bolting the solar panel on to see how it can work. That makes sense really, doesn't it, to actually get it properly configured. Okay, I've just made a couple of adjustments by putting this hinge the other way around, and this one too. I've got it so that I've got some upward direction, and if I slide that along, it still goes all the way along, all the way down. That, at the moment, the hole that bolts to on the panel is actually about here. So I'll probably need to put new holes right at the very end of the panel to get this as far forward and the other one as far aft as I can, so that arm can be the maximum length. And it clearly is going to need you to pick it up and then lock it in whichever place. But there you can see it sloping downwards, and slide it along. There we go. And at the point if you want it level, you're about there. I'm going to take a little break for a while, fill up our water containers, check how Jane's doing, and then I'll start making a second one of these so that I can fit them onto a panel and have a go. Okay, well, 30 knot winds are not the ideal time to dry fit your prototype solar panel supports. However, let's just have a look. This is in what I've currently got as its highest position, so it's a small incline. I would like it more, maybe if that bottom rail comes up a bit more. Now, the folding mechanism should end up being, this needs to slide so much easier, so there's gonna have to be some work on creating something that will slide more easily, but that takes it down to about the horizontal there. Notice at the moment, without the rope inside this, that's bar taut, that's bending a bit more, and my clamp isn't strong enough to hold it, but we can just gradually slide those together to get it into the stored position. The whole panel needs to just come a little bit that way forward so it misses the stanchions. That's in its down position, and the legs folded in. Note I put new holes in the frame, so these bolts are much closer to the end of the solar panel than the original hole here. And the advantage of using wood here is I haven't got to worry about galvanic corrosion between the wood and the solar panel, or between the carbon fibre and the bolts. There's only wood touching metal or carbon fibre, and on the far side of this bolt there is a plastic washer before the nut. Should be good from a galvanic corrosion point of view. I'm not sure whether these are quite what I want in terms of those hinges, but it is working. And obviously I could have these arms another couple of centimeters longer, and that would give me the option of going a little bit higher. When we can see it's in its down position, the good thing now is there isn't much pressure here. I'll put something on there to avoid that chafing, and the solar panel is actually inside the bulwark all the way, just barely at the after end. But if you just pull that in there, you can hopefully see the bulwark sticks out a bit further. Let's go and have a look from below as to what it looks like, and then I'll lift it into the up position again so we can see what it looks like from below in its up position. Okay, I've climbed onto a trailer, so my head is roughly at waterline level. That's what the solar panel looks in its down position. Oops, can fall. And remember, there'll be another one there. Whey! There'll be another panel the same size in that gap there, but it doesn't go as far forward as the gate. That gives us 175 times 4, so that's what, 700 watts of solar when we've got all 4 of those on. Okay, standing on the aft deck with the solar panel in its upper position. That looks good, I think, from here. Key question now is, what's it going to look like when I'm seated in the cockpit? So let's get myself, camera at eye level, and really that's not obscuring my view at all. In fact, for me, it's easy to just put my head above or below and I can see everything. That's fantastic. Very happy with that. I can see that I might want to create some sort of clip-on extra braces that we might use when we are leaving them up for a long time or expecting bad weather, because that is shaking just a little bit. I'll go down and just have a look at what it's like from below with that in its up position. On my way to below, this is from the gate on the side deck. Okay. See if I can avoid killing myself. There we are from about the waterline, looking at it. Yeah, all the movement at the moment is coming from that lower rail bending. And I'm hoping that with a bar torch Dyneema line running inside that tube, that will happen much less. And where the blocks are on the tube, that's clearly, I can't see the screen, that's clearly somewhere we've got to do some work, so that instead of those chunky blocks aren't sliding very well, we'll have something that slides a lot better along the tube. Still, it is what I hoped, I think. What do you think? Do you think this is going to be possible to improve that so that's nice and steady, or do we go for a more fixed set of legs that don't allow us to quite as easily fold it away or tilt it according to some? I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, Jane's feeling a bit better now, so hopefully tomorrow when it's raining she'll be up and about. We want to say a huge thank you to all the new subscribers. Really enjoy having you on board, and to those who've given via coffee, fantastic. It's so chuffed, absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for your support. Take care, see you next week.